Welcome back to a new deep dive, and on this occasion is the ROLAND P-6. This guide is like a crash course. At the description or the timeline of this video, you have all the chapters. You can learn about something today, maybe skip a section, and come back a different day to keep learning. If you like what I do, please like the video. This channel is supported by viewers only. If you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon. Tiny warning before we begin, this tiny device is capable of a lot. I will show you most of what you can do, and I will not cover sampling on this video because you can sample from different sources and you have a lot of configuration options. So I much prefer to upload a dedicated video just for sampling. It will be available in a couple of days. Right, so let's start with the basics. To play a pattern, you just need to go and press play. It will just play whatever pattern that you have selected. To select a pattern, you just need to press the pattern this one is on, and you can select one of the 16 different patterns that you have available within each bank. If you press the pattern and just press and hold, you can see that you have 4 different banks. It's the A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, and then 3. Each bank again can hold up to 16. If you want to change the bank while holding, select the bank number 2, then release, and you can select the bank 2 and the pattern number 1. And so on and on and on. Just press and hold, maybe the bank number 4, and I select the pattern number 12. In this case, the bank number A or the number 1 from factory has a lot of different patterns. So if I select the number 9 and I just play back, I can hear the pattern that we have stored from factory. All the other banks are going to be completely empty. You have nothing there. When playing a pattern and you select a different pattern, when this one is on, you can press it, it will blink, meaning that it will cue in the next pattern that you select. Right, so there we go, this is a long pattern, so maybe 64, it's gonna loop, and when it ends, it's gonna cue in the next one. You can also use the knob, the value knob, to change the patterns. Maybe I want to play a pattern that exists on the bank number 3, and then the 3, it will cue in that one. So if I go back maybe to the number 1 or 6, that's fine, it's going to cue in that pattern. Outside of the pattern, when this one is off, this one is completely off, and we are playing back, this one says 90. This is the tempo of the pattern. We can shift it up. It's going to go faster, or we can go all the way down, of course. If you want, you can go hold the shift, just hold it, and you can fine-tune the tempo. I'm going to go to the pattern number 1, the first one, and I'm pretty sure that you have this one from factory. So whenever you're playing, I'm going to get out of pattern. Notice that these pads are going to be blinking. So this means that these sounds are the ones that are being used to play whatever pattern that you have selected. This takes us to the sample banks that you have right here. If I play the pattern number 1, I know that the bank A holds the samples of this pattern. If I maybe change the sample bank, go to a different one, notice that all of these ones are just grayed out, and it's because they're not being used. If I go back to the A, these ones will light up. So at the right side, you have 8 different banks. Of course, you have 4 different buttons, but they are 8. If this one is steady, it means that you are on the bank A. If I change it, it means that you are on the E, and then B, and then F, and so on and on and on. Right? So you have 8 different banks. Within each of the 8 different banks, you can store up to 6 different sounds. You have the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, and the 6. If I go to a different bank, it means that you have 6 different sounds, completely different from the ones that you had on the A. And this means that if you sum it up, 8 banks, 6 different sounds, you have a total of 48 samples or sounds available for each pattern. So yes, each pattern can use all the different sounds that you have on your banks. on top of the 6 different sounds, you have the Granular pad. Now, this one holds no sample. This one will use one of the samples that you have on your different banks, and it will use a granular engine. The other ones will just play back the sample, but this one, it does granular. But the thing is that you cannot store a sound on this pad. You only have 6, and you can reuse one of the sounds with the granular. I'm gonna go back to the bank A. If I play back the pattern, we can maybe go to a different bank and just play on top of whatever is playing back. We can do that. Now, the thing is, if I go back to the bank A, I know that we are using all the samples. What we can do shift, not play, shift. And notice that this one's go steady. So I can just tap them and notice it says mute. So what we are doing, we are just muting the different pads. And now nothing is playing. To unmute it back, I just need to tap them and they will go back. Also, what you can do, you can shift. And while you're shifting, just go to one of the banks and just tap it. And this will mute all the different pads or sounds within that bank. And to unmute is the same deal. Hold shift and go and tap the bank. Another thing that it's very useful, especially when you're trying to record or maybe play or doing a live performance, is that sometimes you want to select a sound. Let's say I want to select this one or just this one. And I need to tap it to select it. The thing is that it will play, and maybe I want to silently select the pad. For this one, you can hold the pattern, and first you need to hold it, and then you can tap the sound and then release, and you have that pad selected. And this is how you silently select a pad. The sounds that you have on the different banks could be used by multiple patterns. If you edit one of the sounds, it will affect all the different patterns using that sound. Also, when you use your mutes, just like we did a minute ago, changing to a different pattern will not save the pattern, but it will remember the changes. Let's say I play this pattern, and I'm gonna go shift and then just mute these different pads. Right, so now I go to pattern, just press and just turn it on, and if I go to a different pattern, it's going to play just a different pattern. But if I go back to the other one, notice that this ones will remember the mutes. I'm going to need to go to shift and unmute the different patterns, the different pads, if I want to listen to the pattern. Still, if I do all of this, doesn't mean that it's saving it. If I just turn it off and then back on again, there we go, it's back on. I'm going to play. And notice that it didn't remember the changes. So for this, every time that you make a change, it's going to remember until you turn it off. If you turn it off without saving, you will lose all your different changes. The same goes for each sound on the different pads. If I go maybe to this one and I change the pitch, there we go, something super low. If I change the pattern, notice that we can hear it. If I go to this one, it's going to forget about the change because it's playing a new pattern, but notice that the sound is still the same and we are playing a different pattern. Every change that you make to your different sounds will be applied to all your different patterns. So you need to be really smart when you create a pattern and you use your different sounds. Like I said before, if you turn it off, it will forget about the changes that we made to that sound. Still, if you made some changes to the patterns, to the different sounds, and maybe you want to reload the last saved state without saving it, you can reload them. For this, get out of the pattern and you need to go to the shift. Once you press shift, you need to go to the menu. Now, within the menu, you have a million different options, and you're going to be scrolling through the options with the tempo and the value. And it's all the options that we have. Yeah, we have a lot of options. The one we want to use is the reload ones. So you need to scroll until you see something that says RL, that means reload. There you go. Notice that you have a lot of different reloads. So if I go to RL, reload, and then PD, which is the pad, I want to reload this pad. And right here, you can exit or you can confirm the reload pad. And I'm going to do so. I'm going to go back to the last save state. And now if I play it, I get the sound that I had from before. Like I said before, we have a lot of different options. If you go to that menu, shift, and then menu back, I'm going to go back to the beginning. There we go. That's the first one. RL and then PT. This one is reload and then pattern. If I do enter, whatever pattern that I have selected will be reloaded to the default state. If I keep moving forward, we have the GR, and this one is the granular sampler. So if you made some edits to your granular engine, you can reload it from here. The next one is going to be the SQ, and this one is the sequence. So within a pattern, you have your different sequences. For example, if I'm doing something with a kick on this sample, well, that's going to be the sequence. So if I select maybe the kick on the whatever pattern that you have selected and I confirm, it will reload the saved state for that sequence. And then the last one is going to be the pad. We know that one already. We will talk about creating patterns, sequences, and the granular engine in just a minute. Now, if I exit right here, I'm going to go back to the main screen. There's an easier way to access these options. You need to hold the keyboard, just hold it, and then press menu. When you go there, you have almost the same options, but you don't have as much options when you go to the main menu. These options are for the patterns and the pads. That's why you have the reloads, and then you have a couple more that we will talk about later. Notice that we don't have a million options. We only have the ones that we want for the pads and the patterns. Now, what if you made some changes? I'm going to exit, go back to the main screen. You made some changes and you want to save the changes. You have a few options. Whenever you're ready to save, hold the shift and go to the right option. And right there, you have, again, all, and you have a few more options. When you go to all, it means that you will be saving or storing all the patterns, all the changes on the different pads, and pretty much all. If you keep moving forward, you can maybe save the pad. Let's say that you have this one selected and you made some changes. You hit enter right here and you will be saving the changes on that pad. Then if you keep moving forward, it's going to be AL, which means all. Whenever you hit enter, it will save the state or whatever changes that you made to all the pads. Then it's the same deal, but you have the pattern. You can press enter and it will save the current pattern. Or if you go to AL, which is all, it would save all the patterns. We will talk about effects in a minute, but the next one is going to be the effects. If you make some changes right here, you can save the changes. Now that we know the basics, let's learn how to create and edit patterns. Let's talk about the real-time recording. Now for this, I'm going to go to the pattern. I'm going to press and hold and go to the bank number 2. And I'm going to select the pattern number 1 that I know that has no information. So if I play it back, that is that nothing happens because it's empty. Now it will be useful to use a metronome. To enable the metronome, you need to hold the shift and then go to the menu. Remember, we have a lot of options. Right here, we just need to scroll and find the one that says Metro. There we go, Metro. When you enter, you have a few options. You have the off, you have the rec, and you have the RCPL. Rec, it means that a metronome will play only when you are recording. And the other one means that it will play when you're recording and you're playing back. Now, sometimes it's a little bit annoying to get the metronome when you are playing back. So in this case, I'm going to select the rec. Once you select an option, you just need to exit and then, exit out of the menu. Another useful thing is the quantization. If you hold the shift and then you press rec, it will tell you if quantization is on or off. In this case, I'm going to leave it on. I'm going to be using the bank number B to maybe record something. So when you're ready to record, in this case, the metronome is on and the quantization is on, you just need to press the rec and then just press play. And you can hear the metronome. And right here, you just tap away. And there you go. Once you're done, you just press a rec and you get out of a real-time recording. And that's easy. That's how you do it. I'm gonna record a couple more things. Maybe this one. That's fine. So let's say I don't like what I did on the number 5. What you can do, and right here you have a few options in terms of pattern and then clear. You can clear all the different sounds, you can clear just a pad and the motion. We will talk about motion in a minute. But let's say that I want to clear what I did on the number 5. You just need to go to Shift and then go to Clear Pad and make sure that this one is selected. Once I do Shift and then I go to Pad, the number 5 will be deleted when you press the Enter, and then it's done. And then number 5, it's no more. I'm going to be doing maybe the bass. I'm going to go select the bass. I'm going to do Shift and I'm going to clear the pad. And now the bass, it's gone. Now Shift and then All, and it will delete the whole pattern. So I'm going to go and then do Enter, and the pattern, it's gone. Now, depending on the sound that you have selected, you might have different playback mode enabled. In the case of the kick, I can, just press this. And if I go to the keyboard, this is the keyboard. When I play this, notice that you have the octave minus and then up. This means that you can play different pitches of the same kick. And if I do play and then record, I can record different pitches of the same sound. Once you exit keyboard, you just go back to the main, the main screen, and you can record something else if you wanted to. In this case, I'm just going to be doing Shift. I'm going to be deleting all, and I want to clear all. There we go. I'm going to play back and is going to record something. Now, it would be nice to maybe use the bass. I'm going to get out of Rec and I'm going to try to find the sample I want. In this case, this is the bass. So to record something or maybe record different pitches of the bass, you just need to go to keyboard, then go back to Rec. Just record different pitches. Now, in the case of this sample type of playback, where you can play different pitches, this is like the default mode. Some other samples have a different mode in hand. But first, this bass that I have right here, we can play it, and I'm gonna go up in volume so you can really hear this. If I play a key, we can hear it. If I play two keys at the same time, we don't get it. It means that the playback for this sample, it's mono, but you can change it. If you go to Shift, you hold it, notice it right there, it says poly. So when I press the gate, you can change it to poly or you can make it mono. If I make it poly on this bass now, I can play many keys at once, just like a polyphonic instrument. Since this is a bass, I'm gonna leave it at mono. Now, this is the default sample playback that you get. You just go to keyboard and you play different pitches. Some other sounds have a different type of playback. For example, the number 3 on the bank number B, if I go to keyboard and I wanted to play different pitches of whatever I have right here, we cannot, because this is a different mode. Notice that all these ones are just on, they're not grayed out. If I play this one, it's the sound that we get when we play the pad number 3. But then if I play different pitches, we get different parts of the sample. This means that this sample, when we go to keyboard mode, it will play different chops of whatever sample that we are using here. And this is really useful because you have a limited amount of sample slots that you can use. So maybe by using one, kind of a long sample that has different sounds, you can chop it and get different sounds from one single sample. Now, when you are on this mode, you cannot use the monophonic or the polyphonic type of keyboard. You can do so, but you need to go to the menu and you need to change the settings for these samples. We will talk about that in a few minutes. I'm going to get out of the keyboard mode, and each of the samples can be edited. You can change the pitch, the start and the end of the playback sample, and you can change the level. So if I'm recording, I can, start recording. Maybe I'm going to go to the pitch and select this one. This one is the one we have. I'm going to change the pitch now, and it will affect everything that we recorded. And this is, not what I wanted to show you. But what we can do is that when we are recording, we can motion or we can move these different knobs and record the motion that we just did. You just need to make sure that this one is recording, live recording. If I change the level, I could do the same. And you will remember, of course, the motion that we just recorded. And this is why you have the option right here at the bottom that says clear or pattern clear within motion. If I want to clear the motion, I'm going to go to Shift and I'm going to go and press the motion. Now notice that it's blinking and it's asking you to confirm. And this is because if I do so, if I confirm, it will delete all the different motions that we created right here at the top. But if I go to the level, is a motion that we recorded or I recorded with a kick. If I move it, it will clear the motion that we just did for that, that kick. If I play it back, is that we still hear it? Well, I'm gonna go do Shift. I'm gonna go to Motion. I'm gonna move this. And it will delete the motion for the level only. And notice that it's not deleting the motion for the pad number 2. If I wanted to delete all the motions that we created for all the different pads, same deal. I'm gonna go to Shift and then Motion, and without touching anything right here, just press Enter, and it will clear all the motions. Just like we discussed previously, if I go here, we can change the pitch and we can change the level of the sample. But also, since this is a sampler, you can change the start and the ending of the playback sample. If I go all the way to the end, I'm going to go all the way to the start and all the way to the end. That is, the D is S for start 0 and then end 255. And I play it back, I get the snare, but if I move the start, instead of getting the transient, we get the tail. This is how you select the start and the end of the sample. Maybe with the different samples, just going to be a little bit easier. Maybe I want to make it shorter, then I just edit the end. And there we go. Maybe I change the start. And that's how you edit the different samples. Maybe you want to change the pitch and the level. And remember that if you make some changes, it will affect all the different patterns if you're using that sample. If you want to keep the changes, you need to save the changes. Now, a tiny little trick that sometimes is a little bit annoying on some devices is that when you don't have encoders, maybe you want to know which properties you have on the pitch, start, end, and level. What you need to do, you just need to go here and then move it to know the value that you have right here. But the thing is that when you move this, you're changing the actual value that you have stored. The way to know the value without changing it, you just hold the pattern and you move the knob. Now notice it says P-8. It means that the pitch is minus 8. And then the start is that. And I'm not changing the values. I'm just seeing or checking the default values that we have for that sample. The other way to create patterns is by using the classic step sequencer input. This mode is also useful to edit patterns or sequences. Now, to use it is very simple. You just need to select the pad that you want to record and then just, select it and then add the different, and I'm of course using an empty pattern. You just add the different steps, and if you want, then you just can play back. And you can do this while recording. So, actually playing, not recording. This one needs to be off. If I go to the snare and I want to add some snares right here and then here, we get it. If I go to hats, just add some hats and we get it as well. In this mode, motion recording, it's very important. Let's say I want to go to this sound, the number 5. I'm going to be adding some steps, whatever, it doesn't matter. If I play it back, what we get is this step playing the whatever note that we get on this pad, which in this case is going to be C4. That's the default. But maybe I want to change the note value, and you can do so. If you go to the step that holds the note, just press it, and it will tell you the note and then the value. But here, if you wanted to, you can change it to something else. Just press and hold until you see the screen and then change the note value. And I'm going to do so you can hear how it sounds. I'm going to play it back. And then we get it. Fine. Now, this is one way of just changing the note value. Now, in this mode, motion recording, it's very important. Now, the other mode, when we do live recording, when we move the knobs at the top, we record the motion, but sometimes it's a little bit uncontrollable, right? So what I want to do, I want to control it a little bit better. And I'm going to delete the steps because it's just a little bit crazy. I'm going to go to the number 3, and we know that we have some hats right here. Rec is off, and we can do play. So what I want to do, I want to modulate or change the values that we have for pitch, start, and level. And this is a way of motion recording. The only difference is that we don't do it like we do on live recorded. We just record when we manually modulate. We do it on a step-by-step basis. So if I go here, I just press and hold, and I can move the level and just edit the level for that step. And when you do so, you're going to need to change or handle the values for the other ones. So I'm going to go from low to high. So low velocity or low volume, high volume. You can also do the same with the pitch, the start and the end. Maybe I'm going to do it with the number 5. Just going to add some steps. I'm going to press and hold, and I'm going to change the level, and I'm going to change the pitch. And the same thing for this one. And just like this, you can, again, edit all the different values that you have right here at the top. Cool. Remember that these ones are just motions. If you want to get rid of the motions, just like we did before, we can go to Shift and then clear the motion, select the pad and just delete the motion. Or if you want to delete all the motions, you do Enter and you will delete the motions and go back to the beginning. I'm gonna delete the number 5. I'm gonna remove it. Just keep the 1, the 2, and the 3. And I know that this one is a bass. And in this case, I'm gonna go up in level so we can really hear it. And I'm gonna make it polyphonic. I know it's a bass, but it's gonna serve to whatever I want to show you right here. So what we can do, since we can record polyphonic or monophonic, we can record different steps. But if I do it just like this, let me just add something like that. We will be always recording the same pitch. We know this. We can manually go and edit. But what if we have a chord or a polyphonic type of deal right here? If you want to record maybe polyphonic, you will need to go to live record. But we are out of the sequence type of input. We are live recording. It's not the same thing, right? So we go to keyboard, and since this is poly, I can do something like that. And we get it. We get a polyphonic. But the thing is that, again, we don't want to do a live record. So in this mode, what you can do with play off, made a mistake right there, with play off and the rec on, notice it says ST1. So with the knob, you can navigate to the different steps, and notice that we can hear what we have on that step. Yeah, you can go through all the different steps of your sequence on a one by one. Now, the thing is that I want to edit whatever I did on this step. So if you want to edit, when you go to keyboard, you will be able to see whatever it is that you did. And remember that you have the octave down and the plus. So, my mistake. If you go down or you go up, you will see all the notes that you entered right there. So using this method, it means that you can edit on a step-by-step whatever values that you enter to that sequence. I'm going to delete all the steps that we added for the bass. And what we can do, again, with the rec on, I can go maybe to step number 1, enter the keyboard mode, and I just can add multiple notes one by one. Maybe I'm going to go to step number 5 and do the same thing, just enter multiple notes. I know it sounds a little bit out of tune. Maybe using a different sample would be a little bit better, but this is going to work. We have 3 steps with different keys, just a polyphonic type of deal. And then we get it. So this is useful because you can maybe go to step number 1, and if you recorded something that you don't like, you enter into the keyboard and you can edit the different notes that you have right there. So it's C, E, G, I guess it's the major. If I go to this step number 2, we have nothing. Then this step number 3, step 4, and then the 5, we have C, G, E, C, E, G, and then keep moving forward. And then I have this one, which is crazy. So maybe I just can edit this one and do a C and then G, and if I play it back, that's how we can edit. On this device, you have up to 64 steps per pattern, and by default, you only see 16 right here. If you do Shift and you press and hold, notice it says page. So it will let you navigate through the different pages. Since you have 64 and see 16 steps per page, you will see 4 different pages right here. When you start a new pattern, the default is 16. That's why you cannot see all the other pages right here. That's why. The thing is that to extend or to just make a sequence more than 16, you will need to change the last step. And by default again is 16. So if I go to last, you don't need to hold the shift. I can release it. Notice it says 16. If I want to change the length of the pattern, I just need to go all the way up and just make it 64, or just, make it whatever is that you want. I'm going to make it 16 steps, and I'm going to show you something. I'm going to stay on 16. I'm going to get out by pressing the exit. And I just want to maybe add some, or just create some type of sequence, some simple sequence. Why not? I'm going to play back, and I'm going to go to the snares and just create snares and just some hats, something simple. It doesn't matter. Cool. So we have a simple sequence. I want to extend it. I want to make it maybe 64 steps. I know that I can go to Shift and I can select the last step, and I'm going to make it 64. And notice what happens. I'm going to get out, and the sequence is playing behind the scenes. But the thing is that we only have information on the first 16 steps. When you extend or you change the last step, it will not copy the first 16 and then paste it on the other steps. I'm going to go back to Shift, then last, and make it 16 steps. There's a way to copy whatever it is that you have and then just paste it on the next 16 or the next 32. To do this, you just need to go to Shift, just press and hold, and notice it says copy on the play. I just need to Shift and then do play. And you have, just like before, a lot of options. You have PTN, and then you have the part and duplicate, and then so on and on and on. So you are on the copy mode of the device. You can copy a pattern, again, a part. We're going to talk about this later. What I want to do now is the duple, which is the duplicate. It will take whatever you have on your current steps, and it will just duplicate it. If you have 16 steps, I'm going to stay on duple and then just confirm by pressing enter, and this will just duplicate and make it 32. If I do enter, it's going to say done. You can press again, but I want to exit. And if I play it back, we get the sequence. But now, if I go to Shift and I go to last, it's 32. And if we want to extend this, we can do the same thing. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to go to Shift, then copy. We are on duple, and I'm going to do enter. And then when it's done and we exit, I'm going to Shift and check, and it's 64. And it's because we had 32 steps. And if we duplicate 32 steps, now it's 64. And all right, so that's how you extend the sequence. I'm going to go to Shift. I'm going to clear the sequence. I'm going to just clear everything. Notice that we have absolutely nothing. And I'm going to make sure that maybe we have 64 steps. It's because I want to show you something right here. So 16 steps. Make sure that you have 16. Always with the A sequencer, usually you can input ties and you can input rests. So let's say I want to use this one, right? So if I press and hold, notice that this one is the very long sample. If I press it, it's very short. So maybe I just want to add some steps right here. And every time we hear step, of course, we'll just play that step. But since it's super short and we have the gate on, we will talk about that in a minute. It will play that sample. So if I want to create a tie, because I have a note input, what you will need to do is just to go to that step. The play is off, the rec is off. I'm going to just press and hold. And now I'm going to go to keyboard and press it. When you do so, you will see that the next step will light up. I'm going to press it in 3, 2, 1, and there you go. It lights up. And what we are doing, we are just creating a tie. We are just tying the first step with the second step. So now the first one, or this note, is just longer. And we can do so by doing this and then doing this, and now it lasts 4. And maybe this one is going to last 2, and this one lasts 2, and this one will last 3. That is, it's longer, and this one will be super long. So this is the way we input ties. We can also insert steps, and this one is pretty special. I'm going to do Shift and clear all, and then confirm with Enter. If I play it back, we have absolutely nothing. I'm going to create an example. I'm going to go to a 4 in the floor. If I play it back, we have that. I'm going to go snare. We have the snare. If I go to the hats, I'm going to do a hat on pretty much all steps. And I know maybe it makes no sense, but it will teach you how to use the insert step. So if I play it back, we can hear the 4 in the floor, and there's 16 steps of a hat. Cool. Now, when you insert a step, what it will do, it will just create a new step. It will shift whatever is after that step 1 step forward. Let me show you. I want to insert a step on the step number 5. I want to insert it right here. Rec needs to be on. I'm going to turn it on. Now, remember that we can select the step. So I want to go to the step number 5. I'm going to hold the keyboard and make sure that you are on the step number 5. When you hold the keyboard and you go to menu, you will have, again, just like we discussed previously, more options. So notice that you have copy, you have paste, and then you have insert, and then duplicate. Now, if I get out, and then I get out of record, remember that when we do keyboard and menu, we have the options for the pattern, which was reload pattern, the reload the sequence, and everything else. So when you are on rec, again, you do keyboard and menu, and you have some useful options. And right here, you have the insert. Now make sure that you are on the step where you want to insert a step. I'm going to do keyboard and then menu, and I'm going to execute an insert, and I'm going to press enter. Now, when you do so, remember that you will shift forward all the steps on your sequence, maybe 1 step forwards. If I get out of here and just play it back, what is this? It sounds a little bit weird, and it's because I inserted an empty step on the number 5, so everything, it's moved forwards. And we can check all of this by going to Shift and checking the last. This was a 16 steps sequence. If I go to last, now it's 17. So yeah, it will move everything forward, and it will add a new step. So the thing is that if you have 64 steps, you have a sequence with 64 steps, you cannot insert steps because, the max is 64. You cannot insert more. Let's talk about editing notes. We already talked a little bit about this, but you have more options to edit your different steps. I have a 16-step sequence. I'm going to go and add a kick, 4 in the floor. If I play it back, we get that, and I'm going to be adding maybe a step right there for the snares. I'm going to be adding a snare right here, and if I play it back, we can hear, maybe here. There we go. We can really hear that one. So what we can do, and we know about this, when this is off, if I press and hold, I see the note value. But also notice that the granular, it's blinking. And this is because when you tap the granular, you can edit multiple options about this, or params about this step. The first one, or the default one, is the note value, and we change it by moving the tempo value knob. If I press the granular, we have the velocity. We can edit velocity. We can edit the probability. We can edit the gate time. Then we have micro timings. And if I press it again, we have the sub steps. So we already know the note. I can just go here and just move it while holding and just change the note value. In this case, I don't want to. I'm just going to go back to C4. Right. If I hold it and move on to the next one, I guess velocity and note values are just pretty simple. I'm going to go down in velocity. And then we can hear that we are editing the velocity for that step. Cool. I'm going to press it again, go back to maybe velocity. I'm going to go up. And the next one in the chain is going to be the probability. And this one, it's just, I wouldn't say it's super easy to understand. It's easy at some point. So you get 100. 100, it means that the probability or the chance that this step will play always, because the probability is 100%. But what we can do, if I go there, let me just, there we go. I can go down and make it maybe 50%. So now on each loop, there's a 50 chance that this one will play or not. That is that it's not playing. Of course, if I go back to probability and make it even less, it's not playing. So sometimes it will play and sometimes it will not. So again, pretty easy stuff. If I go again to the P and I make it 100%, it will always play. But the thing is that if you keep moving forward, you keep going up, there's that you have 15T and then you have some other weird values. So let's just go back. I'm gonna go to the 15 and then T. This one, it means that it will only play on the first cycle. We have 16 steps and it will just keep looping and looping and looping. If I play it back, it will play on the first and then it will not play again. Notice that now it's not playing. It will only play the first time that you play the pattern, and then it will just not play it again. And all of this is just very electron, if you ask me. But that's cool, you know. If I go to granular again, and then I go to the next value, the next one is going to be N1. This one is the opposite of the P15. This one will not play the first cycle, but it will play the rest. I'm going to play it in 3, 2, 1. Not playing. And now it will always play. Cool. Now, what else? Well, you have other options. I'm going to go to the P and I'm going to move it. And notice that you have 1, 2, 2, 2, then 1, 3, and so on and on and on. Right? So this is the XX. Let me just give you a tiny example. I'm going to go to 1 and then 2. Now, 1, 2, it means that it will play the first of 2 cycles. So the first value, the first number, is the when it's going to play, and the other one is the number of cycles. So I'm going to release it. Remember, it's 1, 2. It will play the first of 2 cycles, and then when it's done playing 2 cycles, it will loop and start over. So play, not play, play, not play. So every 2 cycles, it will only play the first. And just like this, you have different options. You have multiple combinations. Let's say that now we are going to be playing maybe 4 cycles. And I want to make it play on the second of 4 cycles. I'm going to release it. Remember, it's the second of 4 cycles. First cycle, not playing. Second cycle is playing. Third, not playing. Fourth, not playing. Starts over. Not playing on 1. Playing on 2, not playing on 3, not playing on 4. So again, all of this is just very electron, and hopefully you understand how this works. And you have multiple combinations right here. You can make it maybe play on the first of 5 cycles, and so on and on and on. You have all the different combinations. I'm going to go back and leave it on maybe 100%, which is the default value. I will go to maybe the 5, and notice that when you go to the sample, I am on the bank B, this sample has the gate on. And this means that when I play, I need to hold it in order to play the whole sample. If not, it will only play until I release it. If I remove the gate, I play it without holding the pad, and it will just, keep playing the sample. In this case, if we want to use the gate that we get on the settings, we need to have the sample with the gate on. We will talk a little bit more about all the different options that you get right here at the top. I will use the 5 with gate on, and I'm going to just maybe add a couple of steps. I'm going to just play it. And what we can do in this case, I'm going to press and hold. I'm going to keep tapping away until we get the G. And the G is the gate. So we can go all the way up, and it's going to be a longer step. But we can make it down and make it a shorter step. So this is the gate time. This one, maybe it's going to be longer. Oh, made a mistake right there. I'm going to tap to go to the gate, and then I'm going to make it long. This one, I'm going to make it very short so we can hear the difference. And remember that to do this, you need to have the gate on. Cool. So that's the gate time. I'm going to delete these steps, and I will go to the hats, and I will add a hat on each beat. So if we play it back, it's very easy to hear because everything is just right there in the pocket. So what I want to do, I want to go right here and offset the timing. We can do so. I can hold it and then go to Granular and then go to the T. So this is the micro timings. If I shift it forwards, notice that now it sounds a little bit weird because we are offsetting the timing of the step forwards. Or we can do the same, but we can do it backwards. I can go here and just make it backwards. So now it's going to play earlier. Right. I'm going to remove all the hats, and now I'm going to go to the snares, and we just get the kick and snare. Cool. So now I'm going to go here and just maybe add it there. I'm going to press and hold, and what we get next is going to be the sub steps. And when you go there, you will see the 0. So this is when it's going to play whatever step that you have. But you can change the values. So you can go and it will kind of ratchet and play it 4 times within the same step. And for this, you need to have the right sample. So if I play it back, it is playing it 4 times. And just like this, you have multiple combinations. If I go here and just keep changing it, it's going to play it on the first 2 of the 4 different sub-steps, or maybe, again, different combinations. And you have a lot of combinations. Right? Super fun. Now, the other thing that you get is going to be the shuffle. And to show you how the shuffle works, I'm going to be adding a lot of hats so we can hear the shuffle. Right, so to enter to the shuffle, you just need to go to the shift and right here, shuffle. When you press it, of course, it's 0, but you will need to maybe decide how much shuffle you want. You can go into positives or you can go into negatives. I can just go into positives and just play it back. And there's that we get the shuffle. And of course, you can go into negatives. Now, when you're playing with the shuffle, you're not just changing the shuffle for this sound alone. You're changing it for the whole pattern, right? So always make sure that you really want to use shuffle. Now, default again, if you always want to go back to no shuffle, you go back to 0, you press C to exit, and you're done. Before we discuss the different options we have for the sample engine, I want to show you some copy-paste operations. You can copy-paste sequences, patterns, and steps. So I am on the pattern number 1, and I want to copy this pattern and paste it someplace else. To copy the pattern, you need to go to Shift, hold it, and then again press copy, and it says pattern. Remember, we have a lot of options like part and then duplicate. We already talked about this. In this case, I want to copy the pattern. When you're ready to copy the pattern, just press enter, and then you copy the pattern. And this will take you to this screen. It's telling you where you want to paste it. So in this case, you can scroll and select the pattern that you want to select. And I'm gonna maybe go to the bank number 3 and the pattern number 1. I want to paste it right there. I'm gonna go and just press enter and done. If I get out of this screen and I go to the bank number 3 and it was the pattern number 1 and I play it back, I get the same pattern. Cool. I'm gonna go to the number 1 and then the pattern number 1. So one other thing that you can do is to copy the sequence. And what is a sequence? Well, the pattern contains the whatever sequence you have on the 6 different paths. These also are called parts, so the 6 different parts. So if you want to copy the sequence that belongs to a part, you can do so. Let's say that we have something here, maybe. On this one, this guitar, we have this. I want you to copy whatever is going on right here and paste it someplace else. Now, to do this is a little bit weird. I gotta say, you just need to go to Shift, just hold it, and then we go back to Copy. The first one was Pattern. Now we need to go to Part. So when you are inside Part, you have this one selected. You just need to select the part that you want to copy. In this case is the number 4. Once you're ready to copy, you just need to press enter. And this is a little bit different from this one, from the pattern. You just select the copy, you press enter. And notice that it says copy, and now this one, it's blinking really fast. So this means that the whatever sequence that we just copied, it's on the memory of the device. So now if I want to paste it someplace else, I'm gonna exit this screen. I'm gonna go all the way back. And now I just need to maybe select a part, and it could be from a different pattern. I'm gonna go maybe to the pattern number 3 and then the number 2. I'm gonna select maybe the same part. If I play it back, notice that we have no sequence. And now we need to do the same thing. It's gonna be Shift and then copy, and now I'm gonna go to part. But notice again that this one, it's blinking really fast. And this is because it has something in memory. If I want to paste it right here, I just need to press it and it will kind of unload whatever we just copied. If I exit the screen and get out of the pattern, and if I play it back, notice that we have the sequence of the number 4. Everything else, it's just quiet because it's a different sequence, it's a different pattern. So, okay, so we can copy patterns, we can copy parts. The next thing is going to be copying a step. And for this, I'm going to go to the pattern, maybe go to the bank number 2, and I'm going to go to the pattern number 1. If I play it, we have nothing inside that pattern. I'm going to be maybe reusing the number 4. I'm going to add a step. So if I play the sequence, it's just a lonely step. But I want to copy this step and paste it someplace else. For this, you need to have the rec on, and now use the tempo value to scroll and select the step that you want to copy. In this case, it's going to be the number 1. Once you're ready to copy this step, go to Keyboard and then go to Menu. Right? So you have a lot of options. In this case, we have copy, and the other one, it's going to be paste. So if you want to copy that step, you just press enter and you confirm it's copied. So now you need to maybe get out and go to a different step. I'm going to go to step number 8 because, why not? And I'm going to enter again to Keyboard and then Menu, but this time I'm going to go to paste. If I want to paste it on the step number 8, I just confirm and I exit this mode, and notice that we have something on the number 8. If I play it back, we can see that we have a 1 and an 8. Cool. Okay, so far we discussed the basics about this device and how to create sequences and everything else. So you can start creating patterns and maybe having some fun without knowing much about what's going on with the sampling engine. So take this as the first part of this video or tutorial, whatever you want to call it. And now we're going to deep dive into how to use all of this and all the different buses, the effects, and everything else. So each of the parts and the samples that we have on each part can be edited. And we already discussed this a little bit. Whenever we play this, we can change the pitch, the start and the end of the playback engine or the playback of the sample. And then we can, of course, change the level. However, we have other modifiers for the different parts or different samples. So in this case, we have the lo-fi. If I go maybe, I'm going to stay on the number 4. If I go to lo-fi, this one will enable some lo-fi or whatever sample that you have right there. This one is an on and off type of deal, but you can, and I'm going to leave it on. If I go to Shift, just press and hold, and then go to lo-fi. And notice it says lo-fi. If I move this one, if I scroll, you're going to see SNPR. This is the sample rate. I'm going to tell you something about this in a minute. In this case, when you are in lo-fi, you just need to enter to the menu, and right here, you can change the intensity of the lo-fi. It's pretty aggressive. I can go down and just make it less noticeable. And if I go up, I'm going to go all the way up. We can hear the difference. So right here is where you fine-tune the lo-fi effect. Right, so I guess Pretty understandable. And whenever you have a value, you just exit to get out and then exit again to get out. The other option, go to shift and then lo-fi. This one again, the sample rate changes the sample rate. Right now, it's not very useful for us. This one is super important when you sample with this device because this lets you select the sample rate or the quality of whatever it is that you're trying to sample. I will use it on a different video when we discussed about sampling. I'm going to turn off the lo-fi and then I'm going to go to the bank B and I'm going to be using this sample. Now we need to talk about the gate. So when the gate is off, it means that if you press this pad, it will start the playback of the sample and it will end whenever it finds the end of the sample. That's why I press it one time and it's just playing the whole sample. And it all depends on what you have on the start and the end. If I make the end really short, I'm gonna play it and it's gonna end. Maybe I'm gonna need to do more. Notice that if I play it, it's just much shorter. So the start and the end play a good part right here. So when gate is off, you play the sample and it will just end when the sample ends. If you want to stop them, shift and then C or exit, and it will stop all the different samples that you have playing back. If I add this pad to maybe the step number 1, if I play the pattern, it will just play and re-trigger the sample, but it will only end when we re-trigger that pad, or maybe when the whole sequence ends. If you want to trigger or just make it shorter, well, that's going to be the gate. I'm going to turn it on. And now if I press and hold, it's going to play the sample. But if I release, it's going to just kill the playback engine. And just like this, we can maybe add it to different steps and it's going to be super short. That's the main difference. If at some point you select the sample and you turn off the gate, it will go back to the previous mode. It will re-trigger the sample, but it will end when the next one plays or when the sequence ends. And I'm going really slow right here because maybe this is your first groovebox or maybe your first sampler. And this is a very common feature, the gate, but again, maybe you're new to this. So if you want to have short triggers, you enable the gate. If you don't, you just disable. That's it. Cool. I'm going to remove the steps and then at the bottom you can see that you have a loop and then you have a reverse. So when the loop is on and maybe I'm going to go to this one, let's see what happens. I'm going to just keep turn the loop on. If I play at this, actually maybe it's just too long. Let me just go. I'm going to go to the snare. I'm going to select that one of the bank B. It's just very short. If I enable the loop, now when I play this pad, it's just going to keep the pad playing. It's just going to loop the sample over and over again. And right here, the start and the end really matters. If I modify the end of this sample, it's going to start playing faster because this sample is short. If I go short, it's going to be super short. But notice I'm not holding it, I'm not playing it again. And this is, could be good for performance reasons. Now, the thing is that if I just tap it again, it's going to go off. So it means that when I play, if it's looping, every time I play it back, it's going to stop looping. And you need to bear this in mind when you go and you add it to a step and the loop is on. If I add it to the first step of the sequence, I'm going to play it back. And notice it's going to play, but the second round, it will not play it again. It is because this step is turning on and off the loop. So on, next sequence, off, and then on, and then just off. Like I said before, this could be maybe just a performance thing. You're playing some other pads or some other sounds, and then you just want to trigger this. Or maybe you want to add this to the steps, and they will turn on and off when they find a step. It's completely up to you. Now, the loop has other things for you. If I go right here and go to shift and I go to loop, notice that you have different options. Holding the shift and tapping the loop will give you the alt, will give you the forwards, or will give you the reversed. So as you could guess, the reverse, it means that it will just play the sample in reverse. If I change it to alt is forwards and reversed. And then the other one, it's just forwards, which is the one that we've been using so far. Right, so we just covered pretty much everything. We will talk about the poly and the mono and the chopping capabilities of this device. And then you have this delete button. The sampling button is for sampling. Again, I'm going to cover this on a different video. Now, the delete is something that you need to be really careful. If you press the delete, it's going to say del, which is to delete. And you need to select the sample that you want to delete. Once you select it and then you confirm, you delete the sample assigned to whatever pad on whatever bank. And make sure that you want to delete the samples, because once you delete it, there's no going back. Since the delete option is very dangerous, when do you want to use it? Well, let's say that you want to sample something, or maybe, you want to sample something. So to do so, you need to have an empty pattern, or an empty part or pad on whatever bank. So if everything is occupied like you get from factory, you cannot sample anything. You need to delete it first. So this is when this one comes handy. You want to make some room and just sample something, maybe to this one, well, you delete it and then you just sample whatever it is that you want. I'm going to be using this delete and the sampling on the upcoming video about sampling. As we discussed previously, some samples can be played in mono, in poly, and on chop mode. When you select the sample, you go to shift, you can check if it's in mono. It means that you can play one key at a time. If it's on poly, in this case, I guess I have the bass, just like before, we can play multiple keys at once. Again, we already talked about this. If I'm going to get out of keyboard, I'm going to go to this one. If I go back to keyboard, we can see that this one is a chopped type of sample. Since we know how to use mono and poly, how can we take a sample that we have on one of the banks and just maybe change it to a chopped type of sample? Well, at the bottom, you have a lot of options when it comes to sample edit. You have the envelopes, the voice, the filter, and the mixer. And this belongs to the voice. This one, when I guess you get it from factory, they enabled a feature that enables the chopping of that sample when you go to this menu. So let's say that I have this, maybe this sample. If I go to keyboard, notice that this one is a type of mono type of sample, but it's a pretty long sample. So maybe why not chopping this one? So I'm going to use this one again. To do so, I'm going to go to shift and we need to go to voice. And this topic, the sample edit, it's pretty long. You have a lot of options. I'm going to hold the shift and go to the voice. And right here again, you have a lot of different options, You need to find the one that says chop. There we go, chop. Make sure that the 5 or whatever sample that you want to enable to chop mode is selected. Once you do, you go to enter and notice it says off for this one. If I go to the snare, notice that the snare, it says that it's chopped on 16 different parts. We know this. Now, if I go to this one, I want to enable the chop. Right now it's off. I'm going to be chopping it into, 8. Once you're done, you just need to exit. I'm going to go exit and then exit. Now, if I go to keyboard, notice that we have 8 different chops. So this takes this sample and it will chop it on 8 different parts. Still, on chop mode, you can use the mono or poly. If I go to shift and I make it mono, it means that we can only play one at a time. Right? So every time we play a new key, it's choking the previous playback. But we can maybe go to poly, make it poly, and now I can play multiple at the same time. And again, all of this is just completely up to you. But that's how you changed the sample playback from mono to poly and to chop. When you go to the voice edit, when you go to the voice edit right here at the bottom, you have a million options. Most of the options are very simple to understand. So hold the shift and then go to the G, which is the voice inside the sample edit. And like I said, you have a million options. All of these options are about the different sounds that you have right here. So if you select, for example, the number 4, this sound on this bank, all these options will modify the sample and how it sounds. Now, you can check all of this on the manual, but right now I'm just going to go one by one, just showing you what they do. So first is the C tune. So this one is the tune of the sample in semitones. If we want to enter and modify it, just enter, and then we can change it in semitones to +24 and -24. Then, since you can fine-tune in semitones, the next one is the fine-tune, right? So it's the same deal. You just enter and you can fine-tune the sample. There you go. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to keep moving forward. Most of the options, again, are simple, but some of them are just a little bit weird. For example, you have to detune. If I play this one, nothing happens, but if I just keep playing and then I detune it all the way up, notice it sometimes it sounds a little bit detuned. So every time that you press it, it will just detune the sample a little bit. Maybe here on this patch makes no sense, but then when we use the granular, the detune becomes really important because each of the playheads will be a little bit detuned. Still, without using the granular, you can detune the sample so it can sound a little bit different every time that you play it. I'm gonna leave the detune at 0. Coming up next is going to be the S position. The S is the start position, and then the size. So this is talking about the start and the end of the sample. We already have the controls right here, but you can go to maybe the position and set it to a different value. If you scroll it, notice that it's going to take a little while, and then you modify the number, but it's a very small amount. And if you want to change it, really change it, you need to hold the shift and then move it. And by doing this, we are pretty much moving the start of the playback. Notice it now starts on a different place. And we have the same thing with the length. If I go to this one, this size, which is pretty much like the end. If I press and hold, it's a pretty long sample, but I can just hold the shift and go down, just keep going down and make it super short. I'm gonna make it somewhere around there. If I play it and I'm still holding, notice that the sample is dying. So we make it super short. Now, if I get out of here, I can go to the start, change the start, and then change the end. And notice that we are back to what we had from before. Okay, so going back to shift and then voice. And after the size is going to be the loop size. And this only works when you loop. I'm going to maybe select this one. I guess it's going to work a little bit better. And now I'm going to enable the loop. If I press and hold, it will just, loop from the start of the sample. And then when it reaches the end, it will loop back because it's on forwards. But if I enter right here, what I can do, I can just make this maybe shorter or longer. It's completely up to you. This is the loop size. So now, look at what happens. I'm going to play it. Starts from the beginning. And maybe I'm going to need to make it a little bit shorter. There we go. This is what we get. Let me just go up in volume. So we are getting a part of the sample is looping the end and part of the start. So we are just moving it back. So now this one, when we play it, it's going to start from the beginning, but then when it loops, it's just looping part of the sample. Now, this is what you will get on a DAW type of sampler, where it's really simple, where we move the playhead and then we just loop a part of the sample. It's just much easier to do it on a DAW. So this is how you do it. You enter to the loop size. Then after the loop size, we have the T-Env. So this is the T for time and ENV is envelope. And this is talking about the amp envelope. And we have by default an ADSR type of envelope, then ADR and ADA. So this is where we set it up. If I enter here, it's ADSR, which is the default that it uses, and then ADR, and then we have an ADA. And the ADA is attack, decay, and attack is like a looping type of envelope. I'm going to select the ADSR for now. And this is, again, you select the envelope type. If we keep moving forward, you can see the T attack, which is sets the attack of the envelope, then the decay, and then the sustain, and then the release. So you can enter maybe here and set the release time of the amp envelope. The thing is that maybe going here and going one by one just to edit the envelope times really sucks. So by default, when you enter into the voice mode, the pitch, the start, the end, and the level are the controls for the attack, sustain, and release. And we can actually hear this in action. Maybe I go to this one. If I maybe go down a little bit in volume, if I press it, this is the attack, right? The pitch is the attack. So I'm gonna go here and just move the attack. Notice that it starts with a slow attack, super smooth. We can change the decay, and then maybe no sustain if we wanted to. And then it goes down, and maybe no release. So it's gonna cut really sharp. Yeah, so right here with the pitch, start, end, and level, you control your envelope times. I'm gonna keep the sustain all the way up and maybe a little bit of release and no attack. So if I keep moving forward, right? So you have the attack, decay, release, and then you have the T, key, KY, and then F. This is the key follow. So if I enter right here, you have 255. So this one means that the times will be longer as you go down in pitch, and as you go up in pitch, the times are going to be shorter. This is talking about the envelope times. So yeah, it works like a synthesizer where you scale the filter or the envelope times depending on which key you press. For example, right now 255 is the maximum. So if I get out and just go maybe to the keyboard, this if I play a higher key, it's going to go faster. But if I go to a lower key, it's going to go a little bit slower. So what's the difference with the other one? If I do shift and go back and I enter to the key follow, I'm going to go all the way down to 0. So 0 means that there is no scaling of the envelope times. If I play high, it's going to go at that rate or that time. And if I play low, it's pretty much the same. So that's the plan. It's how the times are going to be scaled. I'm going to go back to the voice, and I guess I'm going to keep this one on 255. I'm going to go out, and then I'm going to keep moving forward. Then you have TVA. This one is bypassing the amp envelope. So if you don't want to use the ADSR or maybe the ADR or any of the envelopes that we've been using, you just can go here and just boom, just turn it off. In this case, I'm going to keep it on. I'm going to go out, and next it's going to be the MUGR. So this is like mute guitar. No, it's the mute group. So let's say that you have this sample and you don't want for this sample to play at the same time that maybe the pad number 3 is playing. This is something very common on all samplers and groove boxes. So what you do, you add them to the same group. And by doing that, you prevent from both pads or sounds to play at the same time. They are also called choke groups. So what you do, you need to enter to the sound. Right now, it's not in a group. So I'm going to put it on the group number 1, and you have 128 groups, which is a lot. I'm going to put it on the group number 1. So then I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to put it maybe on the same group. So 3 and 4 belong to the same group. So when you play them, when you add them to a step, they will not play at the same time. One is going to be choking the other one because they belong to the same group. A very common example would be maybe using a hi-hat and using an open hat. You will have a lot of all the 16 steps with maybe a hat, and if at some point you add an open hat, that open hat will choke the close hat, and the close hat will not play. So just a very common example. I'm going to put them for now in no group. I'm going to go here and just go off. If I exit, well, this is the last option of the mute group. And maybe you're thinking, okay, so you're done, right? Not really. All of these options, all these voice options are for the 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5 and the 6. But the Granular has more options. If I go to the granular, notice that we have something different right now. And if I keep moving forward, we have more options, but some of them are just, pretty much the same, like the tune and then the fine tune. And yeah, we have extra options for the granular. So let's talk about this pad. So in addition to the 6 pads that we have available, we can add or assign a sample to the granular engine. And this is the one that we get by default, but we can select a different one. To change it, we do it within the voice. So we go to Shift and then we go to voice at the bottom. And notice that if I go here, like I said before, we have some samples, some options. And if I go to granular, we have different options. The first one is the one that selects the sample. If I enter, it lets you select one of the samples that you have on your different banks. So, and you can audition this while you change this. So let's say I want to select a different one. You just move it and it will just, select a different sample. Cool. So I'm going to go back to the one that we had from before, which is the default A6. And I'm going to use that one. When you get out, some of the options are going to be pretty much the same. If I go here, it's going to be the tuning, which is the tuning in semitones, same. Then the other pads. Then we have the fine tuning, same. Then we have the detuning. We already discussed this on the previous section. And then if I go to the next, it's going to be the H and then pause. H is for the head. So this is the starting position of the head. Remember that this is a grain engine. It will start generating the grains from whatever we set right here from the head. Notice that the keyboard right here, this one, it's off, and I'm going to keep it off. When I play or press the granular, it will show you where the head is and where all the different grains are. And this is very useful because you can see the playback head and how wide it is, or where are the grains, and so on and on and on. For example, right now, if I press it, it's going to start from the beginning of the sample. If I enter and just modify this, and this one is the shift type of deal, and then we change the position, now it will start on a different place. Notice that it starts right here. Right, let me just move up just a tiny little bit. And if I press it, it starts right here. So again, all of this is completely up to you and up to the sample that you're using. I'm going to go back to 0, which was the default. Then I'm going to exit, and we have some other options. This one is the speed of the head. So if I press it, we can see how the head goes, and it's pretty slow. So this is where we change it. If I go up, you will notice that it will go faster. So let me go up and then much faster. Because I guess you get the point. Now I can go all the way down and just make it super slow. And I mean, it's really slow. If you're not that slow, I'm gonna do 10 or 30. I guess it's still slow. So depending again on the sample that you're using, changing the speed will really help you. I'm gonna keep it on the, I guess it was 80s. That was the default, I guess. If I press, yeah, pretty much. So if I go up, the next option is going to be the spread. And if I keep moving forward, it's going to be grains. And then the next one is going to be the grains and then shape. I'm showing you this 3 options because the control 1 is mapped to be the spread, the control 2 is mapped to be the grains, and the control 3 is mapped to be the shape. I'm going to go shape all the way down. So it's going to be shape off. We're turning it off. This is the amount of grains that you're using. You don't have a lot, but it's still a good deal. Now, if I go down, we have the least amount of grains, so it will not sound super, cool in terms of a grain engine. So if you want more grains, you need to go all the way up and you will have more grains. The other one is going to be the spread. If I go all the way down to 0, the grains are going to be super close to the playback head. If we spread them, and now I'm going to just go all the way up just to show you how this works is going to be really crazy because now the grains are going to just move up and down. Notice it gets super jumpy. So if you want them closer to the head, you just need to do less, of course. All right. The next one is the shape. So again, it's all the way off. If I play it, you can hear that the grains will show or appear very aggressively, will appear and disappear very aggressively. If I do some shape, it means that I want some smoothness. So the grains will fade in and fade out. So it's just much, smooth. And if you think about this, all the options that we get right here, the control and the control of the envelope are just really handy and useful. If I keep moving forward, the next one, it's going to be the grain and then size. I'm going to enter, and the default is that. And if I play it, so we can know what we have, we need to do shift, and we change the grain size, and you can hear the difference. I'm going to make it really obvious. I'm going to play it back. Notice what happens. So you don't have a lot of space right here. Super long. So again, depending on what you want, maybe you want less, and you will be getting the other type of effect because everything is super short. All right. So all of these options, again, this is just making it wide or it's just making it short. All of these options are really relevant to the sound that you're using, of course, and you need to configure this in order to make the granular engine sound the way you want to. Now, the grains, when we play them back, they will play forwards or in reverse. Now, the next option is going to be the RVS, which is the grains reverse. Right now, if I enter, it means 0. It means that all the grains that are just appearing are going to be playing forwards. But if we go up, this is the probability that the grains will play in reverse. If I go to 100, a lot of the grains are just being played in reverse. But if I make it less, some are going to be forwards and some are going to be reversed. Cool. So coming up next is going to be this one. So G, T, N, and then J. So this one is the grain, time, and then jitter. And I know that all the names and maybe the screen doesn't help that much. This is a device where you need to commit to memory, to your memory, what this is and what this does. So jitter, it means it's like a way of kind of a noise. It's randomizing. It's a way of randomizing the time in which the grains are generated. If I enter and just do something, right now it's 0, we are going to hear the effect. I'm going to make it super, aggressive. Because it's just like super random now, a little bit more than before. Maybe we had more spread. I'm gonna make it almost 50 so we can see it right here. So when the grains are generated, they appear and disappear. There's something behind the scenes controlling when they appear or they disappear. I'm gonna go out. Well, if the jitter is all the way down, the times are pretty consistent. Now the jitter, what it will do, it will add some randomization in which the times or the grains are being generated. So it's a little bit more random. Some are faster, some are slower. So yeah, it's just a little bit of randomizing everything. And then I'm gonna maybe keep it to 0. I'm gonna go out. And the next option, we already talked about this with the other pads. So this one is the grains, and then we have the key follow. And this is talking about the envelope. For the other pads, what we do, of course, we have the envelope and we scale the times when we use the keyboard and we play higher keys or we play lower keys. Well, this is the same deal. It's the same control, but for the grains engine. And like we discussed previously, 255 is max. You can go, and this means full key scaling, right? So key follow, full key follow. If I go all the way down, there's no key follow. Just like you have an envelope to control how the level of each pad comes out, you have an envelope to modulate the pitch. And it's right here. It's the P and the envelope, pitch and then envelope. I'm gonna use this one, the number 4. I'm gonna do Shift and go to the pitch envelope. When you go to this menu, you have a few options, and they are just pretty simple options. You don't have a lot. The P envelope is going to be the type of envelope that you can use. Is ADSR, then ADR, and the ADA, which is going to be a looping type of envelope. I'm going to keep the ADSR, and just like you have on the voice that controls the the envelope, it's going to be the amp envelope. Well, the controls, the pitch, start, and level are going to be the ADSR controls for the pitch envelope. So it's a separated envelope. If I keep moving forward, you have the attack, which is going to be the pitch, then decay, you're going to control it with the start, sustain, and then release with the level. So how does this work? Well, if you want to modulate the pitch when you play something, when you do something, you need to provide a depth. So the controls that you have right here, they will do that. The control 3 is going to be a D. It says right there, D for depth. If you want to modulate the pitch with the envelope, you need to provide some depth. And that is it. If I play it, it's super fast. We can hear the start of the sample being modulated. And all this is something that you change, of course, with the envelope. If I do something slower and something a little bit longer right here, maybe a little bit of release, it's going to sound very different. I'm going to go all the way down in sustain and maybe a longer decay. It's going to go up and then down. All right, let me do it a little bit more obvious. There you go. Now you can go into positives. 100% is just, of course, max. And you can go into negatives. And maybe you're thinking, what's the difference? If you didn't hear, well, if I go all the way up, it starts down and then goes up. If I go to the other way, make it negative, it starts up in pitch and goes down to the current pitch, the normal pitch. All right, so I'm going to keep moving forward. Oh, one thing that I didn't say is that you don't have a pitch envelope for the granular. If I go to the granular, notice that, it goes out. So you don't have it. And that's pretty much it. This one is pretty simple. Now, since this one is the depth, this controls the 1 and the 2 will control something very specific. The number 1 is going to be the key follow. And we already talked about this for the other ones, for the other options. If you go to 255, the number of the note that you press, the pitch of the note will affect the envelope. For example, if I go to a higher pitch, well, it's going to affect it more. And if you go to a lower pitch, it's going to affect it less. So this is what this one controls. And you also have it right here. It's the pitch and then attack. No, not that one. It's going to be the times and then key follow. So this is the control for this option. If I keep moving forward, we have the velocity sensitivity. Well, this is the same as the key follow. Right now, I guess it's all the way up. So the velocity will modify how much the pitch or the modulation will take effect. So it's going to be more aggressive or less aggressive depending on the velocity. Now the pads are just not velocity sensitive. This is something that you program on your sequence. Right? But yeah, if you want to affect it with the keys that you press, the note value or the velocity, well, these ones are the ones that you need to use. For each pad, including the granular one, you have a filter, and it's a dedicated filter. To access, I'm going to use that one. To access to the filter, you just need to go to Shift and then go to the one that says Filter. It's G#. Just press it and you get access. The pitch, the start, and the end and level will control something about the filter, but right here you have all the different configuration options. For example, the type, the cutoff, the resonance, the key filter, then you have the velocity sensitive. I'm going to go all the way back to the first option. The first one is the type. If you enter, of course, is off by default. Usually the filter is off, but you can select a low pass, you can select a band pass, a high pass, and then you have a peaking type of filter. If I go all the way off and I get out, you can select the type of filter with the pitch control. That is that you can. And I'm gonna select maybe the low pass filter. And the start is going to control the cutoff. If I go all the way down, we are cutting, since we are using a low pass, I'm cutting a lot of the frequencies, so we get nothing, and I'm still pressing this one. And we can hear it now. This one is going to be the resonance. Now then you have the D, and the D is going to be the depth. If I go all the way up, we are modulating the cutoff with an envelope. If I go all the way down, there's no modulation going on. So what can we use to modulate the cutoff? Well, we usually use an envelope. We don't have a dedicated envelope because it would mean that we need a dedicated envelope for each of the different sounds. Notice that this one is the only one using the filter. So you can use the filter, or it actually uses the envelope of the amp. If I go back to Shift and then go back to the voice, when you set up your envelope right here with the controls, well, it's going to be using this envelope as a reference to do the modulation. So yeah, it's a little bit, this is how it works, I guess. You need to go back and forward, then I need to do Shift, and if I want to go back to the filter to fine-tune all of this, Shift and go back to the filter, and then we just change the settings. And remember, this is the depth, how much we want to modulate. Just like we discussed previously, the controls, they do something. The number 3 does absolutely nothing, but the first one is going to be the key tracking or the key follow. It means that higher keys will modulate the filter more, lower keys will modulate the filter less. And then you have the sensitivity, velocity sensitivity. So more velocity will modulate more, less velocity, it means that the velocity will not affect the modulation. So yeah, it's a pretty basic type of filter. You don't have a lot of things. It's, just nice that you get it on such a small device. All right, so then you get the mixer, this one. And notice that everything that we've been discussing for the past, 1 hour is about the sample edit. All the options that you have on this unit is just mind-blowing. So when you go to the mixer, it's about each of the different sounds, the configuration of the different sounds. For example, the mixer controls the level, and if you think about this, you can already control this when you're out of this screen. And the level, right here is the first option within this menu. It's going to be this level, so you can control it directly from here. You don't need to go through here, but if you want to, you can enter to the level and just, set it up from here. I'm going to press exit to get out. If I go to the granular, well, it's the same level, but if I move forward, it says level and then J. And if I go to a pad, we don't have a level J. So level J is level of the jitter. If we use the granular, we can hear, of course, the different grains and the level, how the level is. If I enter, the level is 0. It means that all the grains are pretty much at the same level. If I go up on this one, it's going to randomize the level of the different grains. So we get more, kind of let's say, more movement. So yeah, this is what it does. And you only get this option for the granular pad. I'm going to go all the way down. I'm going to get out and keep moving forward to the next option. After the level, you have the A pan. So for the pads, you have one single option, which is going to be off. That's the default. But then you have random. If you think about this, this is panning. Maybe I'm going to use this one. I'm going to just turn it off. That sometimes it's gonna pan it to the left or to the right or center. So yeah, it's a randomly panning the sample. Now for the granular, you have a different type of configuration. I'm gonna go in, and then you have random, but you also have other options. For example, you have the alt. And the alt, it's going to make it, go left and right. Then you have the swing, and the swing will make the grains swing. And then you have the random, which is the default that you get. Or you could just turn it off and have no movement. Sounds pretty, centered. All right, so I'm gonna get out and maybe go back to this one, and then you have the pan. So what's the difference with the other one? Well, the other one, again, will just automatically pan. That's why it's a pan. But this one, you can decide the panning. Maybe let me just go to the number 5, which is this. And I'm going to enter here, and I'm just going to turn it off. So we have it at the center. And I'm going to go to the pan. And as you could guess, this one will do some panning. If I move it to the right, we have the sound on the right, or we have it on the left. Cool. So that's it. Super easy. One more thing, like I said before, the level, of course, controls the level. We know that. But then we can control the panning with the pitch knob. We don't need to go through the menu. I'm going to get out, and I can move it to the right or move it to the left directly from here. Right, so much easier. Let me go back to the center. There we go, center. I'm going to keep moving forward with the options. After the pan, you have the out B, and this is the output bus. Yeah, and I'm going to go in, and you have the bus A, you have the bus B, and then you have the effect. To understand this, we need to understand how buses work, and it's the last section of this whole video or whole deep dive. And it's, I'm going to need to do a lot of explaining, especially if you don't own an SP404. If you have an SP404, you should know this. It's a pretty common option for that device. You can set this sample or this pad to go out to a bus, A or B, or go out through the effects bus. So if you don't know how the buses work, I'm going to explain this in a couple of minutes. I'm going to leave it on the effects bus, and I'm going to go out. And then you have the send, and it says send D and then send R. So this one, the D, is the send to the delay, and the other one is the send to the reverb. If you take a look at the bottom, we can configure the delay and the reverb. Now, the thing is that you only have one single delay and reverb for the whole kit, for the whole device. So you can decide how much you want to send to the delay or the reverb, and you do it from here. The delay and the reverb are global. They are not dedicated effects. You can enter to the menus and decide how much you want to send to the reverb or to the delay, but you can do it from here. The start is going to be how much you send to the delay, and I'm going to go all the way down on the reverb. And if I play it, I guess the delay is super short, but we can hear it's super stereo, I guess. And if I go down and I go up on the reverb with the end, we can hear that happening. Cool. So let's talk about the delay and the reverb configurations. These ones are kind of related to the mixer in this section, and then we will talk about how this works. So let's talk about the delay and the reverb. This is pretty simple. The options that you get for both are very simple to understand. You have a lot of configuration options. I'm just going to give you a tiny tour because I think that this guide is way too long already. Now, first, to configure them, you need to decide, or you need to go to the mixer by doing, of course, Shift, and then go to the mixer, select the sound, and you select how much you want to send to the delay or how much you want to send to the reverb. For now, I'm going to send maybe something to the delay so we can hear it almost there. And then once you're sending, then you go to Shift, hold it, and go to the delay and the reverb section. We are now in the menu, and you have a lot of options. If it starts with the letter D, it means that you are on the delay type of setting. And notice that all the options that you get. If I keep scrolling down, at some point, you will find the R, and this one are the reverb configurations. And most of them are just very common or very easy settings. For example, the desync is going to be the delay sync. And it's, of course, a turn on and off type of deal. It will sync to the tempo. Now then, you will have the time. And this one is the delay time. And it's tied to the pitch knob. If I move the pitch, notice that it's changing the time. So now if I press it, of course, it's a little bit different. There we go. So 1/16, I guess now it's pretty obvious. If I keep moving, the next one is going to be the delay level. And that one is going to be the start knob. How much level do we want in the delay? If I go down, we get nothing. Cool. So yeah, that's how it works. So, okay. So moving forward, we have the most common options that we get with the delay. We have the feedback, how much feedback you want. You have the feedback mode, which is going to be from a normal type of delay or a cross type of delay. In this case, that's the normal, and this is the cross type. If I keep moving forward, this is the F mode or feedback mode. If I keep moving forward, is the low cut. On this one, you can cut the lows, it's just a filter, and then the high cut. You can cut the highs. Again, move forward, and it's the L, and then M. This is the letter M, and then D. This is the delay level mode. And you have two options. You have pre, and then you have post. Now, to show you how this works, I'm going to leave it on pre, and I'm going to go back to the feedback, to this one. And I'm going to just go up on feedback so we have a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. So I'm going to get out, and I'm going to go to the feedback mode. There we go. So enter, and we have pre. I'm going to keep pressing this, and this one is, again, is the level of the delay. If I go all the way up, I'm going to go all the way down. It's going to smoothly go up and down when I go down level. That's the pre. If I go to the other mode, the post, when I modulate or go down in level, it's going to be a lot more aggressive. Notice the difference? Yeah, it's just a lot more aggressive. And why is this helpful? Well, it depends on what you want to do. Maybe you're just performing and you want to modulate or to change the delay level. Well, pre is going to be a little bit smoother, and then post is going to be, a little bit more harsh, let's say. So let's just keep moving forward. The next option is going to be the D, T, O, and then R. And this is the delay to reverb. How much of the delay signal, because it comes first, it can go and fed back to the reverb signal. Cool. What's next? I'm gonna get out, move forward, and then we reach the reverb settings. Of course, to check this, we need to go to the mixer. I'm gonna do shift and go back to the mixer, and I'm gonna send nothing to the delay, and I'm gonna send a little bit more to the reverb. If I press it, we can hear it. I'm gonna get out or do shift and then go to the reverb. And first is gonna be the type. You have a few types. You have the plate. I'm gonna go all the way back. Ambient. You have the room. Then you have hall, which is the first hall. You have a second hall, which I guess is gonna be longer, more lush. You have a room, and you have ambient or ambience. And if I keep moving forward, we have the plate, and then, of course, modulate it. Now I'm going to leave it on hall because it's pretty easy to hear. I'm going to get out, and maybe you will notice that with the reverb, you have less options. The next one, it's going to be the reverb time. I guess it's obvious. And then you have the level. And the time is going to be the end knob, and the, of course, level is going to be the level knob. So we can control how much level we have the reverb with level, and how short or just large the room is. Cool. Now, moving forward, it's the pre-delay, how much pre-delay. And again, like I said before, all of these options are just pretty common options or settings that you get for a delay or a reverb. Now, I'm going to move forward, and this one is the low cut. You have the same thing on the delay. You have the high cut to cut the highs, and then you have the density. Of course, this will make the reverb a lot more dense. You have 10, which is the max, but you can go down and notice that the reflections, which is pretty choppy. It's an algorithmic type of reverb. As you go more, of course, it's more dense. So I'm gonna get out. Now the last option is gonna be the GLDR. So this is the global delay and reverb. If it's off, I'm gonna go in. If it's off, it means that each pattern will use its own settings for the delay and the reverb. That's, fine. If I turn it on, when you change patterns, when you go, of course, to pattern, get out and change patterns by, playing the different patterns, whatever setting that you currently use for that reverb or delay will be the same. This is useful if you want to use this device in a performance where you change the different patterns and the delay and the reverb will be pretty much the same, will be consistent, especially, of course, when you change patterns. If you don't care about that, you go to Shift again, you go to the global delay and reverb, and you just turn it off, and each pattern will use its own settings of the delay and the reverb. Right, so now I guess it's time to talk about the effects and the buses. So first, I'm going to give you a tiny little tour about how the effects work. And if you have an SP404, well, you kind of know how this works. The effects are a lot more powerful on the 404, but they get the job done, and you get almost the same vibe that you would get on the 404. So if I play maybe the first pattern, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna play it back. These buttons, they're going to be effects, and what they do, they will apply some kind of effect. In this case, it's delay, pitch, looper, filter, and scatter. Now, these ones, if I press now, will affect the whole kit. And is that when I press it, I don't need to hold it. It's just an on and off type of deal. If I do the same thing for the pitch, we can hear the pitch, the tuning. If I do scatter, we get it. Now, if you want to apply the effects only when you hold and release, just hold the pattern and just maybe press and hold. And as soon as you release this one, it will go off. So it's like a momentary on and off. Maybe I'm gonna go to the filter, pretty obvious, and release, and it goes back. Cool. Now all the different effects that you have right here, the controls at the top will control some aspect of the effect. For example, if I go to the delay and I maybe play it back, this one will modify something about the delay. Right here, you need, this one controls the time, and I guess this one is the feedback, and this one is, I guess, the level or mix. So all the different effects have different options. You change the configuration with the controls, but they are all different. Now, when you move on to maybe a different effects, all of these options are just completely different. But the cool thing is that once you set them up, it will remember what you did on the control 1, 2, and 3. So if I go back to the delay, I still have the same options that I just, changed. If I go back to pitch, it remembers the controls. Then the looper, it's just the looper. It's gonna kind of a loop. Let me just do it like that. If I go back to the other ones, again, it remembers, which is really great. It would make no sense if we change the controls and it forgets as soon as we get out. Then you have the filter, and as you could guess on a filter, you have a resonance and type of deal, cutoff. And you have the drive. Then the scatter, and I guess, that's it. Now, these ones are the effects that you get, and on the 404, it's just pretty much the same. You can assign different values or different effects to the buttons. Right here, these ones are fixed. This one is the MFX, which is the multi effects, and this is the unassignable effects. It means that you can decide which effects you want to use. If I play it back and I go to the MFX, notice that it's applying an effect. If I press and hold, right here you can change the effect that is using, or the effects. Once you're done, let's say I want to select, and notice that you have a lot. I'm not going to go through all of the different effects, but let's say that I want a crush. As soon as I get it, it's applying the crush, and of course the controls will control something about the effects. If I go to maybe a tremolo and I release it, now it's using a tremolo. There you go. A tiny cool thing is that when you go to the MFX and you press and hold, maybe I'm gonna need to do it like this. I'm gonna press and hold it. Notice that this one is selected. So what we can do, we could change on the fly by using the keyboard and holding the MFX. And maybe the screen is gonna let you know right here which effects that we are using. It's pretty cool. So yeah. So that's it. That's how the effects work. If you remember, we discussed a while ago that you have a bus A, a B, and an effects bus. And the effects, whatever it is that we are doing right here, it's kind of really related to the effects bus. So let's talk about that. Right, so I have a tiny little sequence right here. It's a pretty simple one. It's just a kick, a snare, and a hat. So if you notice, every time I press an effects, by default, the whole pattern, all the different pads will go and be affected by the delay, for example. But I'm pressing right now the delay and it's not happening. And all of this is because of the buses. So let's say that maybe I want to apply an effects maybe to the snare and to the hats, but I want to leave the kick alone. So for that, you would use the buses, and you have the bus A, you have a bus B, and a bus effect. The bus A and the bus B have no effects. When you route them to those buses, you cannot apply effects. They only will be affected by the bus effect. As we discussed previously on the mixer section, we can maybe select a sound, go to shift, and then go to the mixer. And then when you go all the way at the end, you can select where you can go to A, to B, and to the effect. Now there's an easier way. If I get out and go back to the main screen, I can just go to the MFX, just hold it. That is, I'm holding it, and right here when I tap it, is going to be sending it to the EFX, which is going to be the bus effect. And if I tap it again, is the bus A. And if you want to send it to the bus B, hold the delay and the MFX and tap it EFX or bus B. I'm pressing both at the same time. I guess this is one of the benefits of being a guitar player. So yeah, just like that. And notice that if I go maybe to the MFX, it's blinking. So if I tap it, this one is light up, and it's red, and it's because this one is going to the EFX, to the effects bus. If I tap it again, now it's going to the bus A, and now it's a dim light. And if I go to the bus B, it's going to be a blinking type of deal. So yeah, whenever you're going to someplace, it will tell the lights, it will tell you where it's going, to the A, to the EFX, or to the bus B. And the same thing happens with the granular. If I go to granular, this one is going to be going to the bus A, or the EFX. So in conclusion, you can send it to 3 different places, the A, the B, or the FX. And the whole point of this is, again, just to control what you can do with the different effects. For example, right here, I have the kick, the snare, and the hat. What I want to do, I want to send the kick to the bus A, and I know that I have no effects right there. But when I do delay, I want to affect the snare and the hat. So I'm going to go here, just hold the effects, and send it to the effects bus. And this one, it's going to go to the effects bus. And when I play it back, and I go to the delay will only affect the snare and the hat. The kick goes out clean to the bus A. And if I want to maybe remove the hat, I'm going to hold it and just send it to the bus A. And the only one going through the delay is going to be the snare. That's, I guess the main point of doing all this. So when you create a performance and you know what you want to affect with the different effects, you just send them to the effects bus and you can, process them with the effects. Now the question is, why do you get a bus A and why do you get a bus B? Why not just getting one single bus? The thing is that some sounds will go to the effects bus, some sounds will go to the A bus, and some sounds will go to the B bus. You have 3 different buses where you can send to. If you do shift and you go to the mixer right here, just mixer, on this screen, on the mixer screen, you can do shift, just hold it, And now the pitch will control the level of the bus A, and this is the bus A. If we go all the way up, it's going to be all the way up. But then the start is going to control the out of the bus B, the level of the bus B, and the end is going to control the bus effect. Notice that it's A and B and then E for effects. So if you're sending to all the different sounds to 3 different buses, the main point is that you can control the level of all the sounds going to the A. I go all the way down, and notice that only the snare is going out, because this one is going to the E effects, to the effects bus. If I go down on the effects bus, we get absolutely nothing. So we have 3 places where we can send to, and we can control the different levels of the sounds. Maybe a group is going to be, lower in volume than the other one. So yeah, it's a good idea to send it to different effects and just control it a little bit better. Now, if you like all of this and you want a little bit more power, well, maybe you should be getting an SP44. I think this is a slim version of the 4.4. On the 4.4, you can do a lot more things. It's, of course, a lot more visual, so it's just easier to set it up. But it's the same idea. You can do pretty much the same thing. And I guess that's it for this video. We didn't discuss sampling and maybe managing samples. This video was already way too long, and this shows you or proves how much you can do with this device. It's a pretty complete device, especially for the price tag. So if you want to get a sampler, a small sampler, well, this one is a very good option. You get a lot for what you paid for. The only problem is that, the tiny screen, and you need to remember everything that we just did. But once you do so, once you commit everything to memory, this one is just a no-brainer. Like I said before, I will upload a completely different video showing you how to sample. It's not so hard, but you do have a lot of options, just like you have for the rest of the device. Right, so if you liked this deep dive, please like the video. This channel is supported by viewers only. If you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon.